Hi.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good
Alrighty,
morning.
it is Wednesday and so we trying to finish this unit as we started from last week. So we got section 2, 3, and 4 to be completed this week. As last week we have done some research regarding the Aboriginal customs, right? And also we went through some Australia immigration history. We're learning something about Australia's culture and also how to work with other people from different cultural background. All right. So these units we going to finish the rest. Yeah. And are you able to see my full screens? Okay, perfect. So I will mark your attendance probably in the middle of the sessions. Okay, I want everybody to fully contribute and also participate into the class. All right. When the end of session 3, we'll do a little activities with you guys as well. All right. Okay. So this part, we're going to discuss how to contribute the developments of workplace and professional relationship based on appreciations of diversity and inclusive. Does anyone still remember what inclusive means as we discussed from last week? Anyone remember what inclusiveness or inclusive means in our workplace? Or anyone can give me any examples about inclusion in our workplace?
Inclusive is you get to participating in things.
That is your participation, but how about inclusion? Who else do you think you need to include it into that participation? Have a look at the PowerPoint slides, these slides on the picture. What is this picture telling you?
Diversity.
So you are not only working alone, right? You're working with other colleagues. So you need to include your colleagues. Am I right? So
Yes.
how about inclusion? What would be the example in your workplace that to show your inclusion with others? Any examples you can think of that to show your inclusiveness to others?
Respect with other people.
Respect other people, okay? What else rather than just respect? What else can we do?
Or respect their culture.
Sorry?
Respect their culture, like where they are fasting, or we let them do what their religious
you're
activity.
Right. You're absolutely right. But that is still respect. That is not what we're saying about inclusion. What else you can do to include your other colleagues?
Welcome different sides, different opinions.
Yeah, that's right. Correct. So we always accept everyone have different value and ideas, right? We encourage everybody to express their idea and also any concerns from other people, right? We always giving opportunity for our colleagues or anyone else in the team to express themselves. That is part of inclusion. Yeah. So how can we contributes to the developments of in our workplace. So firstly, you would need to know we do have our colleagues at our workplace. You do also need to work with your supervisor or also your manager, right? And you also do have chance to communicate or even to work with the employees from other departments, right? For example, you may have chance to work with like the chef, kitchen hands, or maintenance, or receptionist, or even though from HR staff from other departments, right? And in your workplace, you also would have chance to work with any contractors, right? They may have someone like physio. Some of the physio, they are the contractors. They're having contract agreements with your organization. You may have also a chance to work with them. So how do we contribute our appreciation and inclusions in our workplace? So on the left-hand side of this slide, I'm just briefly showing you what we can do. So firstly, we do need to follow our workplace diversity and inclusion policies, all right? So when you start working in this organization, you should always familiar with their diversity and inclusion policy. I'm sure 100% every aged care facility, they would have these policies, because that is also aligned with the aged care standards as well. The organization need to show the commissions and also to the family member and the clients what can we do, what the organization would do to promote diversity and inclusion. Some cultural awareness and also inclusions training, that is part of your responsibility to attend those training, and it is also your employer's responsibility to organize those training for all staff, especially in your workplace. You do have people coming from different cultural backgrounds, so your employer should always organize. For example, I think it's really common is probably during the staff meeting or after the staff meeting, your employer will encourage everyone like bringing their traditional dishes into the meeting or to the party after the meeting, or organizing any toolbox talks. So allowing the staff to sharing their cultural backgrounds, or sharing something interesting about your culture, to letting others colleagues to start learning about your traditional practices, or the way you communicate, etc., etc. Right? So that is not only your employer's responsibility, also for staff as well. You do need to attend those training. And also what we can do to contribute for those professional relationships and appreciation, that is including what I think Felicia has mentioned earlier, always respect. Yeah, respect our colleagues, respect the managers, supervisor, and any other employees in the organization. Always stay positive. And when we having communications with others, try to communicate clearly and also resolve issue early. That is what we have discussed. And also appreciate cultural differences. As we say, even though you may come from the same country, but different part of the country, your cultural or the customs or traditions would be slightly different. Yeah. So we do need to acknowledge and recognize the differences and also appreciate, and you can definitely share your understandings with others. Yeah. So that is how we can contributes for appreciation and also build up the relationships with our colleagues, or even though from employee from other departments. And also we do need to use the work practices that to make environment safe for all. So as we mentioned previously, as a care support worker, our responsibility is not only to protect our clients and family members or other colleagues physical safety. We also need to consider cultural safety. Can anyone tell me what your understanding about cultural safety, which is we have mentioned last week? Anyone remember anything? What would be your understanding about cultural safety? Anyone? We know that we need to protect our clients' physical safety, right? What about cultural safety? Audrey?
Culture safety, I think, is for people from different cultures background. They have religions belief, and they have their how to say the tradition beliefs that we might need to consider and provide if possible.
Yeah, excellent. Good. How do you know your client actually feel culturally safe living in your facility? How do you know that?
I think communicate, ask them if anything more I can do for them.
Yeah, for sure. In most of the facility, they would have residents or client survey or questionnaire, or even though during your daily conversation with the clients, you always can need to make sure or discuss with your clients if they feel culturally safe living in your facility. So the following slide is showing you what cultural safety means or what we can do about cultural safety. So firstly, it's cultural safety is about respect and also embrace diverse cultural and linguistics backgrounds. Yeah. So we working in Australia, we're living in Australia. We do understanding that some of the clients or some of the people they may not English may not be their first language, right? So we do need to understanding that and respect. And also your clients living in your facility feel respected, accepted, and also free from fear or discomforts about, for example, they should not feeling disrespectful because they don't speak English, or they should not feel discriminated because of their nationality or their skin color or their religions, all of those, right? That is about cultural safety. When the auditor coming to your aged care home, when they're interviewing the clients, they will definitely ask your clients if they feel culturally safe. Do the staff are always respecting them, or do the staff or the facility offering them their traditional food, etc., etc. Right. So if your clients say no, some particular staff or the organization they they don't respect my cultural background. They never support me to celebrate my traditional festival, etc. Then your home, your facility will have not met, like non-compliance, right? Because cultural safety is one of the clear requirements for the organization and also the staff to fully support our clients. Yeah. And also, every staff or every aged care workers, we do need to be cultural competence, as we discussed also last week. So, cultural competence, it is a ability. Everyone should have this ability to know and recognize how to communicate and how to fully respect and recognize different cultures' value, and also continuously improve our cultural awareness, yeah, and also be sensitive with different cultural background. So if you're going to work with somebody, let's say coming from Africa, yeah, so you do need to recognize there are you and your colleagues have some cultural differences, yeah, and you do need to know how to respectfully working with your colleagues who coming from Africa, let's say, yeah. We don't expect every staff knowing every cultural background um, straight away, but you should have that ability to do your research, to be able to effectively communicate with your colleagues coming from different cultural background, including your clients as well. Yeah, you do need to know how to be culturally safe, including your colleagues as well. Not only the clients, also your colleagues too. So your colleagues should feel comfortable to work with you. You are not discriminating them, etc. Right? And here is showing you some of the key skills. Like for example, you do need to be aware of your own cultural values, right? But you also definitely not to impose your own value to anyone else, right? But you firstly be aware of your own cultural value. and also adapts communication and behavior to meet others' needs, right? So if your, for example, if your clients, if your residents, they are going to celebrate any of their traditional festivals, so you should be able to support them. In terms of how to support them, you should always check with your supervisor and also your organization policy and procedure, what else we can do to support our clients celebrating their traditions. And also definitely talk to your clients, talk to their family member, what do they normally do in their festivals, right? So you can try to support them. Or even though I do see some of the staff, they're doing it really well. When they are aware that they have a new clients coming to their services, they will start checking what's the cultural background for that client. They will try to learn some simple words like saying hello, how are you in that client's native language. For example, if your client is from Vietnam, probably the staff will try to look for how to pronounce hello and how are you in Vietnamese, right? In their language. That will actually make you, that will actually show you you are really welcome. That's clients coming to your services and you are really keen to get to know more about their culture. That is one of the idea I can give it to you, right? Especially like you supporting elderly people. It will be really like awesome that they can hear you try to speak in their own language, even though you just be able to speak one or two words. But that's still quite nice, right? And we definitely need to work collaboratively to create an inclusive workplace, right? So you are not the only one person to telling others what to do. Always gathering together, encouraging everybody to contribute into their workplace, right? And always consider a team approach. As an aged care support workers, I think I have emphasized to you guys a couple of times, you guys are not working alone. Always you work with the team. You do have your supervisor, your managers to back you up. So think about teamwork, right? So everyone needs to contribute to cultural competence in their role. So even though we are a care support worker, you should always have that ability to contribute what we can do to improve our cultural competence. Yeah, and the teamwork definitely will strengthen inclusion and understanding. Okay. So far, any questions? Good. All right. Perfect. Thank you, Audrey. And the following slide is to discuss how we're providing the needs of marginalized group. Anyone knows what's the meaning of marginalized group? Or have you ever heard this term before? Or which group do you think would be the marginalized group?
I only heard this in like economic papers. The
Okay.
marginalized group is the poor people, the ones that doesn't have access to luxury stuff and sometimes even public health. The ones
Okay.
that does not have a lot of voice.
Yeah. So in terms of in aged care industry, so marginalized group is not only about people living in poverty. It's also including the group of people may require more support. For example, people living with disabilities, yeah, they are part of the marginalized group. Or you can think of what other groups they are the disadvantaged group, except people living with disability. Any other groups you can think of in our community or society, they are probably the disadvantaged group.
The incurable illnesses.
Yeah, so which group of people would be the disadvantaged group? Do you think
Aboriginal?
Aboriginal? Yeah, Aboriginal people definitely. Yeah, they would be the disadvantaged groups, right? And they would be a marginalized group. Great,
Yeah.
excellent. Any other groups you can think of? So disability, Aboriginal people, yes. Any other groups you can think of would be
Maybe LGBT group.
excellent. Yes, the LGBTI, right? So lesbian, gay, or transgender. They are also the group as marginalized group. Perfect. Any other groups you can think of? One more. Let's think one more.
Elderly.
Elderly. Correct. Yeah, elderly people. Right. They are also the marginalized group. Excellent. So as a care support worker, we do need to provide different level of support to the marginalized group. Yeah. Even though, for example, elderly people living with disability, so they are definitely a marginalized group. So they are not only because of their disability or because they are lesbian, it could be combined all different roles together. Yeah, so we do need to support those people. So on this slide is showing you that what is the meaning of risk factor and protective factor. So as a support workers, when you're supporting people such as elderly, disability, or LGBTI, we do need to identify what could be the risk factor for those people. So risk factor in this, it's meaning the conditions or situation that may cause harm or disadvantage to those group of people, right? So what could be the conditions or situation that could cause harm to elderly people, you think? Any situation or any conditions that may cause harm or disadvantage to elderly?
Domestic abuse.
Yeah, domestic abuse or elder abuse, right? Yeah. Or probably the elderly people, they are being discriminated when they're looking for job. Yeah. Or even though sometimes in the public transport, some of the young people, they will feel you are too slow, hurry up, right? So they are could be verbally abused to elderly people as well, right? All of those different factors, risk factors that we do need to identify. And also the protective factors, that means the conditions that to promote safety and positive outcomes. So we do need to think of what we can do to avoid our elderly people or any marginalized group people that to be that to protect them to have any harm from others, right? So here it's showing you about the meaning of marginalized groups, and they do need to have some other care needs. So like we mentioned, people from diverse backgrounds, they may have physical, mental, and emotional health needs. Yeah, we probably easily just focus on their physical needs, but definitely we do need to think about how to meet our clients' mental, emotional, spiritual, and cultural needs. Yeah, and also we do need to some may need to direct or indirect assistance. So what you can think of would be the indirect assistance. What would be an indirect assistance for those people, marginalized group people? So we know that's direct assistance, probably providing some physical assistance. But how about indirect assistance? What would be indirect assistance?
Some supplies.
Sorry, some
Facilities.
Facilities, like you mean providing resources, and is that what you mean, Yon?
Yes.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, providing any like assistive technologies, helping them to apply for any fundings or resources. Yes, that is definitely a indirect assistance. And definitely, as a support worker, we all should help our clients to access appropriate care and different services, right? Right. And also, we should using our diversity practices and experience. So here is showing you what we can do, right? So firstly, we should improve our cultural awareness for all people in the workplace. We have mentioned that earlier. And also prevent any conflicts and arguments due to differences in culture. I think as long as we mentioned earlier, we don't have to um, agree with all um, different values and traditions from other cultural background, but at least we do need to respect. Yeah. And always, if there's any conflicts in the workplace, always try to solve it in early or get your supervisor involved to helping you guys to solve the problem in the workplace. And definitely to create some opportunities to address any existing issue and concern. As we say, the earlier we can solve the problem, that will have a better outcomes in our workplace. And also allow everyone to stand on equal footing in terms of ideas and opinions. That is what we mentioned earlier about inclusions, right? So giving the opportunity for every people in the workplace to express their concern and also raise any new ideas if they have, right? So that is about these parts. Any questions for part 2? Because that is what we left from last week, so that is short. All right, so if you have no questions regarding this, we can start from our section 3. Give me 1 second. I'll just try to bring section 3 up. I'm going to share that. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, but not full screen.
Not full screen.
Yes.
Get full screen up.
Mm,
Not yet?
no, it just stopped. After you press beginning, it stopped.
How about now?
Still like the default PDF screen, no, PowerPoint screen.
Let me try again. Can you hit the full screen now?
Loading. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, so section 3, it's about how we communicate with people from diverse backgrounds and situations. So definitely that would focus on when we have some conflicts in the workplace, how do we communicate, and also how we start getting to know everyone's backgrounds and providing supports. Yeah. So as we mentioned earlier, definitely always, that is the first thing, we need to show respect for diversity in our communication for all people. So what we can do, what is meaning showing respect? Yeah, it's easy to say we're showing respect, but actually what do we do to show our respect? So here is explaining to you So we do need to treat everybody with kindness, right? Always be polite, and also respect the develops the bonds among the workers. Like for example, you may see some workers, they may have same cultural backgrounds, then they always like when they're having their break, they may sit together, they may always chatting in their own language. But that is what we remind you previously in your tea break or when you're having your meal break. Yes, you probably would allow to speak in your own language, but definitely when you start working with your clients, when you go back to the floor, you should only speak in English, right? That is also another way to show your respect to our clients. And also, people inclined to work better with someone who treat them with respect. Definitely, your clients, if they do feel like you are not respecting them, or you always speaking your own language with your other colleagues in front of your clients, or you rush your clients to do something, or you are not providing enough, allowing your clients to have more time to do the tasks, then definitely do need to consider whether you are respecting your clients or not. If you are not building up a really good relationship with your clients, definitely have hard time, yeah, in your workplace. And also, one way to develop respect is to communicate properly or using different ways to communicate with your clients. What do you remember as we discussed from last units? What will be a common communication strategies or effective communication strategies? Do you still remember any verbal or non-verbal communication strategies?
Active listening.
Active listening, excellent. So what do we do in terms of active listening? What is active listening means?
Listen, pay attention, and give appropriate response.
Excellent. Yeah. So always allowing your clients to express themselves, to not disturb them or interrupt when they are talking, right? Paying attention to listen to what they're trying to tell us. Excellent. What else other than active listening? Any other effective communication strategies?
With facial expressions shows empathy.
Yeah, excellent. Showing empathy. Yeah, probably you can nodding your head or slightly lean forward when somebody is talking, right? So that to show you are really keen to know what they're talking about and paying your attention. Excellent. Good. And also diversity in communication, it means in different ways to communicate with the person in the workplace, right? So that it could be including uh, face-to-face conversation or a phone call, or you can send them a text message or emails, trying to use different ways to communicate. Some of the colleagues, they probably, let's say, their English probably is not as fluent as you, right? So if they have difficulty understanding you while you're having face-to-face conversation, try to use different way. For example, sending them an email so they would have enough time to read through and trying to understanding what you're trying to communicate with them, or promptly attach some pictures or graphs or photos that to help them to understand, right? So you can consider using different ways during communication, not only verbal communication. You can send them an email, etc. Right? And the following slide is showing you like what do we do to consider communicating with people different cultural backgrounds, right? If they can or cannot speak English verbally, or the person if they have any disability, so they would consider like if the person have problem or impairments of reading, hearing, etc. And also, if the person have diagnosed with any conditions or illness that can affect their speech, what you can think of would be the medical conditions that can affect a person's speech. Do you know any medical conditions or health conditions may affect a person's speech?
Stroke.
Stroke, yeah, correct. Or even though the clients living with this dementia, right? So when some elderly people, they have dementia, they would have difficulty to find a words to express themselves. So when you trying to communicate with those people having a medical conditions, you may need to consider any other way that would easier for you to communicate with the person, right? Think about using some simple words, not using any medical terms, right? Avoid using medical jargon, etc. So that to help the person easier communicate. Or also using probably asking some yes or no question that will easy for your clients to respond to you rather than they have to talk in a long sentence, right? And use English as their second language. Consider if the person's English is not their first language, or trying to avoid using some really complex English words when communicating with them, right? And also show your respect. What we can do, as I think Yong and also, active listening, right? And be mindful of using some sensitive words. Especially, I think you guys have already done the units about palliative care, right? You can think of palliative care that could be a sensitive topics to some of the culture, right? Not only to elderly people, it would be quite sensitive to some of the culture backgrounds as well. For example, like in Asian culture, if you just start talking about end of life or palliative care, it would be really sensitive to them. Yeah, they may think of why you start talking this to me. I'm still alive and I just come to your services, etc. So you do need to consider how you can properly communicate that some of the sensitive topics or even know some sensitive words with the clients. And during your communication, we definitely use different ways, as we mentioned earlier, and think about to using more your body language, for example, your facial expression, eye contact, all of those non-verbal communication strategies that would help you to communicate with people coming from different cultural backgrounds. Yeah, rather than just sorry. That's my mobile. Sorry. And rather than just using a plain English, right? So using more about non-verbal communication strategies. And also, if you have any clients or your colleagues, they are Aboriginal people, as we have mentioned, they probably using some Aboriginal English. So that may have some also difficulty of understanding as well. So you do need to consider to respect, definitely to respect that is the home language for a lot of Aboriginal people. And it is different from standard Australian English in words and grammar and expression and tone. So that means when you're using some standard Australian English, the people from they have the Aboriginal backgrounds, they may not 100% understanding what you're trying to say. That's why it is important to consider using some of the body language and gesture and adjust your tone of voice in your communication. But what we need to remind you guys again, as we say, eye contact is one of the really common communications strategies. But in terms of Aboriginal cultural background, having eye contact, it would be quite rude to them. Or even though you may see why that people is not looking at me when they're trying to talk to me, if they are Aboriginal background, consider in their culture having eye contact, it would be roots in their culture. Okay, so as we say, having a respectful communications, including having face to face. So when you're trying to talking to somebody, you're standing in front of the person or sitting in front of the person, but keeping some comfortable personal space. Yeah, not comes to too close to others. Always consider speaking clearly and respectfully, right? Calling somebody's preferred name, offering them a cup of tea or coffee before we starting the conversation. Make sure when you're having the meeting or conversation with others, it is private, right? Consider about the client's privacy and confidentiality, etc. And during the communications, we do using some body language and observe and respect some local customs and gender boundaries. Remember, as we say in Aboriginal culture, it's about men and women's business, as we discussed it last week. Yeah, so that is all you need to keep that in mind. And also, we do have large chance of communicating with other people who probably doesn't speak English at all or only speaking really minimum English. What would be the best way you think to communicate with the people who doesn't speak English at all? What would be the ways you can that help you to still communicate? Language is great. That is one of the effective communication strategies. But in some situation, body language it may cause misunderstanding as well, right? If you're going to discuss any like medical issues or financial issue or legal issues, probably just using body language is not good enough because it may easily causing a lot of misunderstanding. So in those cases, we do need to consider using some professional translations or interpretation, right? As a care support worker, even though we do speak the same language as your clients, but you guys are not the professional interpreter or translator. You are not allowed to do any translations for like we say, medical and legal and financial. Those should be translated by some professional translator. Okay, probably for some daily activities or any other things that if you are able to speak your client's language, that will be great. So you can help to translate. But if in terms of any medical, financial, legal issues, that should not be present to translate. Okay. So as we say, you have plans to work with people with non-English speaking background. It could be the factors is because of their age, right? I do remember I had one client. She is Italian, but she could speak really can speak English really well. But since the time she is slowly deteriorating, and also she developing Alzheimer disease, she starts forgetting how to speak English and converts back to only speaking Italians to the staff. So that means some medical conditions or even though age, that could be the factors to cause the person's not speaking English. Or some of other factors, it could be education background or if they have any difficulty of learning other languages, right? So you do need to be aware. And when you're trying to communicate with the people who is non-English speaking, you may need to consider what would be the challenges for them when you need to communicate with them, right? So probably they fully don't understand what you're trying to say, or even though because of their cultural background, they have difficulty of understanding you, right? That is what you need to consider. And also on the left-hand side of this slide is also showing you what could be the strategies for effective communications. So as we say, definitely if the person doesn't speak English at all, then better to get somebody to speak their preferred languages. Yeah. Like for example, even though for Chinese we do have Cantonese, we do have Mandarin, right? So you can't just say, oh, because you're Chinese, then I'll get you some of them only speaking Mandarin. But how about if your client is speaking Cantonese, then you need to look for somebody who can speak the client's preferred languages. And also allow extra time for your clients to providing you feedback or responding you. Don't forget your clients would be elderly people or people with disability, or they have difficulty looking for words to trying to respond to you. So make sure when you're having a conversation or when you're having a meeting with them, allowing your person to have enough time to trying to express themselves, not to rush them or not to telling them, yeah, that's the time, we do need to be hurried, right? So you do need to understand.
Recording in progress.
Or beneficial when you're talking to someone who is non-English speaking background. Can you think of any other strategies rather than just using body language? Anything, any other strategies could use when we're trying to having conversation with a person who doesn't speak English?
It's easier to use a translator.
Yeah, using translator. But how about if you if the translator is not available or they can't come straight away? Any other way that you can think of use? Any other strategies?
I show them pictures.
Excellent.
Some like signs, giving signs.
Excellent, correct. Yeah. So using some universal symbol signs or using images, right? Using pictures that would also help you to communicate with others. So we will discuss it a bit more. But here is showing you what we can use for verbal and non-verbal communication constructively in the workplace. What is constructive means in your understanding?
Building.
Okay, meaning building?
Yeah, like construction.
In terms of communication, what would be constructively means? Any idea?
There's some progress in it?
Yes, have some progress. Or when we having a discussion in our workplace or when we discussing something with our clients or anyone else in the workplace, we do need to provide feedback, right? We do need to discuss some of the particular issues. Then your communication should not be just yes or no, right? You need to providing some details or some constructive feedback that is telling the person which part they are doing it well, which parts you think we can improve, right? Or giving some guidance to our colleagues or to our clients. That will be constructive feedback, we call, right? So have a look at the following slides. Here is showing you what is verbal and non-verbal communications when we talking to somebody from different cultural background or diverse background. So firstly, we need to using the appropriate language. You do need to choose some appropriate words, right? When you, for example, when you're talking to your colleagues is a similar age as you, I believe the language you use would be different to communicate with your clients is 90 years old gentleman, right? So when you're talking to different people, looking and also depends on the topics as well, and you need to choosing the appropriate words, right? And avoid the use of any discriminatory phrasing. Yeah, so you should not say, "Oh, I think some of the cultural background is better than other religions or ethnicity, etc." So we need to avoid saying this, and also using the tone and the pace that match the person's preferences. That is what we trying to say. The tone you use.
Recording in progress.
Cultural background, you are not sure if that word is appropriately to be used. Always check with the person. Yeah, am I talking too fast or too slow? And also common questions that you can ask during the conversation, right? And also consider some general tips how we can do a effective communication with others. Here is showing you some of the dot points. Focus on the person, focus on the individual, not their cultural background. When we're having conversations, we focus on the person, right? What we're trying to discuss with them, we are not focused on because you are this cultural background, you are these religions. Just focus on talking about your religion and your cultural background. We focus on the questions of the persons that we're going to communicate with, right? And we speak directly to the person, trying to using any calm and also normal tones, right? We're just treating each other as respect, and also it's normal, right? Even though you're from different cultural background, so always speak directly with respect, and be patient, as we say, allowing enough time for your clients to understand what you're trying to say. So be mindful not to speak too fast, yeah, and check with your clients if they feel like you are talking too fast, then slow down a little bit. And also, if the communication is unclear, trying to rephrase using different words to help your clients to understanding rather than just repeat the same, right? Your clients may not be able to understanding some particular words you use. If they're showing any confusions or they're looking at you looks blank, or you can see their facial expression that if they're showing you they're not quite sure what you're just telling them, try to rephrase using different words to explain to your client. Yeah? And ask what helped them to communicate better. For example, check with your clients whether they have wearing their hearing aids, or whether they're wearing their prescribed glasses, helping them to read some of the information or papers, asking them if they're required to organize an interpreter or translator to attend that meeting, etc. Right? Offer help politely and respect their responses, not to judge your clients, their responses, not to always be objective of their ideas, etc. And if there's any mistakes happens, definitely we do need to apologize, right? And also stay relaxed. Try to, if you are unable to fix the problem, get your supervisor involved. Yeah, but don't forget, if we're making any mistakes, we need to apologize to them. Yeah, and also please do not try to hide any mistakes we made. We do holding the open disclosure. We do need to be honest to our clients and their family. Okay. And here is also showing you, as we mentioned earlier, we're using a lot of non-verbal communications, using universal symbols. That is also one way that would help our clients to understand. So you can see on the right-hand side, the first picture is showing you like this, right? That is a really common and universal gesture we use to showing great. Oops, okay. And also at the bottom, that is also a really common universal symbols. Like the first one, what do you think that means? Someone sitting on a wheelchair? What is that symbol mean? Huh? You guys don't know the first one? The symbol is somebody sitting on a wheelchair?
Accessible.
Yeah, that is for wheelchair access, right? Or a wheelchair user, they can access, right? What about the middle one?
Bathroom. Men and women's bathroom.
Yeah, men and women's bathroom. And the last one?
No smoking.
No smoking, right? So that is really common and also the universal. That means we're using probably globally or most of the country, they do recognizing those symbols that we use. That could also helping you guys to communicate with, especially they are not speaking English, so you can using some of those universal symbols to communicate with them, including the gesture, right? Make sure your non-verbal cues that match your spoken messages, right? So especially like we're using the gesture, that it should match up with what we're trying to say with the person, right? And also in terms of non-verbal communications, we do also have something, it's the written language. Yeah, when you're sending an email, when you're sending a letter to other people, so you need to consider using the appropriate words, and also probably using some pictures or symbols in the written communications, right, to helping others to understanding the meaning. And when you're writing any messages, sorry, someone mentioned something? No? Oh. So when you're writing any messages or emails or letters to others, make sure the message is clear, easy to understand, and also polite and easy to read. Right? You're not writing a really, really long emails to others. It takes a long time, or probably the person will be having difficulty of understanding what you're trying to say. And especially when you guys doing some documentation in your workplace, so please make sure you follow your organization's documentation policy and procedure. Every organization, they would clearly tell you, for example, how often you need to do the documentation, if you are allowed to using any particular abbreviations. Yeah, they will have a list to show you what would be the abbreviation to be allowed to be used in our organization, in in your documentation, etc. So you do need to follow those policy and procedure when you're doing the written messages or documentations. Okay? And also for using verbal and non-verbal communication in your workplace, that is also something we have mentioned earlier, using some alternative communication methods. That means when you're having communication with others, you are not only using one way, we could using visual, gesture, or even though using interpreters or sending emails, sending photos, etc. that help others to understand. So using different communication methods, including, like we say, pictures or diagrams to support others to understand. Yeah, like Audrey has mentioned earlier, we're using cue cards. Has anyone seen any cue cards we use in HK? Or what would be cue cards?
No idea.
No idea. So cue cards we use in aged care is, for example, if your client is Italian, yeah, so the cue cards was showing the Italian words, and also at the bottom will be English words for the same meaning. For example, toileting or eating, right? So they were showing the words in Italian and also, and plus they would have a pictures or diagram that's showing about eating. Yeah, so when you're supporting the clients who is Italian and doesn't understand English, so you can easily bring in your cue card, pointing that particular words in that language to showing your clients that is what you're trying to say, and of course plus your body language that would help your clients to understand what you're trying to tell them, right? If you don't have any staff who can speak Italian, then probably using the cue card and also using the Google Translate, yeah, for those general communication, yeah. Normally, the cue card would keep in your client's room because that can easy for you to access the cue card and demonstrate, then explain to your clients. Or even though sometimes keeps the cue cards in the nurses station, so you can also easy to grab what particular language of cue card you're going to use. And also if you could do some research on Google, you will see there are so many different services. They created some really helpful cue card that you could download for particular languages. Yeah, so I believe most of the facility, if they have any clients who doesn't speak English, then we must have a cue card in place, and also consider if there's any other alternative communication method that we could use to communicate with our clients, right? That will be one of the questions. The auditor, if you have auditor in your facility, they will interview you as a staff as well. They will asking you, if your client doesn't understand English, how do you communicate with your clients, and how do you know to make sure you're meeting your clients' needs? That one thing you can answer is we've got cue cards in place. Cue card always keeps in your client's room, and also we do have some staff who can speak the same language as these clients, and also don't forget, call the family member. If the family member is available, they also can help us to communicate as well. And you do need to make sure you're familiar with your organization's policy and procedure regarding this. Right, that would help you answer some of the questions. And like we mentioned earlier, you need to be sensitive when asking some personal or cultural questions. So before you're asking some of those questions, you better to do some research regarding, have some really basic understanding of the client's cultural background, right? And as we mentioned, understanding that avoiding eye contact can be a sign of respect in some culture, as we say, especially Aboriginal culture, Anyone knows any other cultural background? If having eye contact, it would be a disrespectful way. Do you know any other culture in except Aboriginal culture?
No.
Yeah, so far neither. I only aware that's probably all at this stage, as far as I know, is the Aboriginal culture. They would avoiding eye contact, but probably there are some other culture that would also having similar practices as well. So we just need to be aware and understanding that they are not trying to be disrespect. It is actually opposite. If they keep having eye contact with you, that would show their disrespect. Right? And do not interrupt or also finish the sentence for others. Always giving enough time and allow the persons to finish before you respond to them, right? And respect the culture norms such as men's and women's business in Aboriginal community, which is we have mentioned earlier. So far, any questions? So far, so good?
Yes.
And as we mentioned earlier, what would be a constructive communication? So, as we mentioned, we do need to consider some of the key points. But firstly, misunderstandings may cause because of cultural differences. One of the barrier for misunderstanding or communication problem, it would be because of cultural differences. So that's why once you are recognized, you and your colleagues or you and the clients or the family member may have some cultural differences, you may already consider to having some difficulty of understanding, right? So constructive communications, we actually focus on resolving the issue through clear and respectful dialogue. So when you're trying to communicate with others, we focus, especially they have different cultural backgrounds, so we do need to consider what we can say and what we can do to focus on resolving the issue, right? So here is showing you some of the key points at the bottom. First is we do need to using some problem solving skills to address if what would be the particular conflicts. Sometimes you may definitely need to bring in the interpreter or translator together to helping you to solving the problem. And also direct but respectful communication that seeks the common ground, right? So we are only trying to focus on one problem rather than you bring all so many different issues.
Recording in progress.
If you are unable to resolve the conflicts with your colleagues at the first stage, you better to get your supervisor involved as early as possible, so your supervisor can help you rather than getting the conflicts bigger and bigger. Then will be more difficult to solve the problem. And also definitely we use active listening skills. Yeah, we are not to discuss who is fault causing these conflicts, but what we both contribute to trying to solve the problem. So we do need to actively listen to others, right? The following slide, it gives showing you some of the way what we can do in terms of considering to keep in mind when we're having a constructive communications. So as we say, definitely we do need to consider using non-verbal communication, including some gestures or some keywords that would help people probably not fully understanding English. We use non-verbal communications. Definitely we need to speak slowly, right, clearly. Sometimes you may need to raise your voice, but you need to consider it's not showing any disrespectful behavior. Using gestures, facial expression, and pictures as well, right? Showing some universal symbols that helps your clients to understand, and avoid uncommon and difficult words, which I mentioned earlier, not to use some medical jargons or some of the abbreviation which is your clients or their family member may not be able to understand. Yeah. And also organize what you say. So if you want to have a meeting or having a conversation with your clients or with the family member, please plan what you're going to discuss with your clients, right? Not to jump one topic to another. It will confuse your clients. So try to go through everything first before you're having the conversation with them. And also avoid just yes or no questions. So yes or no question, as we also call as closed questions, but during the conversations, we trying to consider using open-ended questions, which is allowing your clients providing more information to you guys. Do you still remember what is open-ended questions? What would be the sentence or questions considered as open-ended questions?
Like it's not yes or no, but it's about like how, when, where, what. Like you ask for information.
Excellent. So those questions like asking what, when, how, why, those questions that would allowing our clients to providing you more detailed information, right? That would help you to collect those informations. Okay, so that you can take a screenshot of these PowerPoint slides that will giving you some idea what you can do in terms of constructive communications. Yeah, so consider all of those. Non-verbal communication, speak slowly, using gesture, using pictures, diagram, avoid using medical jargons or difficult words, start planning properly before you're talking to others, and also using open-ended questions, right? Okay, so the following part is asking if you have any language barrier, what will be the effective strategies to communicate in most of the efficient way possible. So anyone can think of what would be the strategies we can use if language is a barrier for you and your clients? What would be the effective strategies to communicate?
You call it translator.
Yeah, definitely. You count on translator. I think better to use translator if your client is completely not reading English, not understanding English. Better to use the translator, right? So here, firstly, is showing you what is language barrier means. So it's really common in diverse work with someone who doesn't speak English at all. And also type of different language barrier is not only they don't understanding English, they may have some culture issue that's caused them doesn't understand, right? For example, if their cultural backgrounds completely different to Western culture, right? As we mentioned last week, Australians using Western culture. I'm not using. We are practicing Western culture. Then could be one of the barriers that they have difficulty of understanding. And also, if the person is their English understanding, or they may not be able to understand in a full level, right? Some, for example, elderly people, they may understand some simple English, but when you're talking to some difficult words, then they would have problem of understanding, right? And also technical, when you're using some jargons, or when you're using some abbreviations or medical terms, then definitely not a good idea to using in our commons communication, right? So you do need to consider all of those before you're having a conversation with others. How do we fix, or how do we overcome this problem, you think, if your clients have different cultural backgrounds and also doesn't understand English really well, and also you are going to discuss some medical situation or legal, you guys are not going to discuss legal situation, let's say medical situation with or medical condition with the clients, how do you overcome, how do you address this language barrier? You guys have mentioned earlier what is included. What can we do to overcome those problems?
Translator.
Yeah, using translator for sure. But I think before we contacting the translator, you do need to collect a bit more informations, right? So definitely you do need to check your client's cultural background, right? Even though before you contact the interpreter, they will definitely ask you which languages interpreter you're looking for, right? So you do need to know your client's cultural background, or what would be their preferred languages they would use. And for sure, checking your organization's policy, right? What will be the proper steps that you need to follow before you're looking for interpreter. And also you should know your role and responsibility. Is it your role to look for interpreter, or if there's any specific person that you can liaise with in your organizations that you can talk with to properly overcome those language barriers, okay? So you do need to definitely clearly understanding that. And also definitely if the language barrier is between you and your colleagues, then you definitely need to speak clearly, also definitely having a respectful communication with them. But I'm sure as long as they are employed and they are competent and qualified to working as aged care staff, they should have some basic understanding of, or they should be able to speak English well, right? Otherwise, it will be really hard for them to work in aged care. Yeah. And also the following slide is showing you what would be the strategies that you can use to support communications. So definitely we need to be patient, right? Understanding others may not be able to fully understand you, so allowing enough time for them. And also you guys can also build up your own vocabulary, right? Start learning more different words, and asking questions, asking the respectful questions, asking if it's too fast or too slow, or the tone of voice, just be mindful. And using the repetitions, using the repeats, and also following the routine of your clients, right? Using different diagrams, pictures, graphs, or symbols That's to help our communications. And finally, for sure, we should look for different assistance, like from the interpreter, translators, or from other professionals. Right? That is part of our responsibility. We are not just sitting there or don't know each other what you're trying to say and then ignore. No, we should actively looking for a way to effectively communicate with our clients. Okay. And we can definitely seek assistance from interpreter for other persons according to communication needs. So in Australia, because it is a multiculturalism country, so we do have a lot of different services that would help for communications. So here it's showing you. I think you guys can write it down or take a screenshots those names for providing interpreter and language support services. I'm sure you guys will definitely use in the future, especially we do have a lot of elderly people that may not speaking English. One is called National Interpreter Symbols. That shows where to find the language help. Probably you can write down the names, or you can do some research regarding this a bit later, especially for some particular languages. And also the other one is called TIS, National, okay, that is stand for Translating and Interpreting Services. That is also really common we use in aged care facility. It is a free government services for non-English speaking speakers. Yeah, so it's quite common we use the TIS nationals. I believe 100% of the aged care facility, they would develop their own network with translating and interpreting services, especially they would have clients who may need some interpreter services. And also they in Australia, we do have a service, translating services for Aboriginal people and Torres Strait Islander for translation as well. All right. If in the future, if you have any clients, they are Aboriginal or they are Torres Strait Islander, you can specifically look for this translation that would help you to communicate with Aboriginal people. Okay. And for sure, as we mentioned earlier, we do need to meet our clients' communication needs. We can't just say, oh, because I don't understand Italian, I don't understand this language, then just don't know what to do. No, it is our responsibility to meeting our clients' communication needs. So your employer and yourself as a staff, you need to look for different ways. You can't just say, no, sorry, I don't understand. That is not good enough. Okay, as long as your clients coming to your services, you are holding the responsibility to meeting our clients' needs, which is understanding what they want, right? So you need to actively look for some particular ways to communicate with our clients. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. And here, this is a quite important slide that I would like you guys to focus on. In terms of interpreter, we do have two different types of interpreters. One is language interpreters. The other types is called cultural interpreters. So they are different. Yeah, and also here, language interpreter that is helping you to express or understanding to translate from one language to the other language. That is commonly what you're understanding about interpreter, which is, for example, if you're speaking English and your client speaking what other language? Korean, yeah, Korean. So the language interpreter is the person who can translate from Korean to English or to English to Korean. That's about language interpreter. But cultural interpreter, that is specifically only helping you to understanding that particular one cultural background. Okay, they are not focused on translating language from one to the other. They are the person responsible to explain to you about one specific cultural background. All right, I'll give you a bit more information. So firstly here, you can have a look what would be the benefits of using language interpreter. So definitely, they are helping employees to understanding and communicating better between co-workers who speaking different languages to reducing communications problem for sure. Also using language interpreter is helping us if there's any conflicts, they can translate those sign language as well, right? If, for example, if the person they have difficulty of speaking, they can use, or even though they are deaf, we can use sign language, right? They are also including as a language interpreter. And definitely they are providing some translation on a real-time basis, right? When you're asking, they can straight away translating for you. But for cultural interpreter, here is showing you they are exchanging the idea and information between one cultural background to the other. They are not only specifically focused on translating the languages. They are explaining and exchanging the idea and information. Do you see the differences between language interpreter and cultural cultural interpreter?
Yeah.
Yeah, so they are not the same. Okay, so it's more they are expert of one specific culture. For example, if you really don't understand one of the European culture, you don't know why these clients can react like this, then you probably can look for a cultural interpreter. So they are really familiar or they are the expert of understanding some particular cultural background. So they will explain to you, because of their cultural background, this and that, that's why they react in this way, and this is the sensitive topic. You should not discuss that with this person with those cultural background this way, etc., etc. So they are not just because of you don't understand that language. They are more about the culture. And definitely using the cultural interpreter that would help you in the workplace to understanding what will be the culturally sensitive topics with others, including your coworker and also your clients as well. All right. And here is showing you what would be the benefits of using cultural interpreters. So for example, we can help workers and employers to understanding their own cultural background, right? For example, we had a colleagues previously, she is Aboriginal people, and then she requests something to the manager. The manager was really no clue why she's doing it that way. Then we look for the cultural interpreter to come and provide us some education and training to helping us to knowing more about the Aboriginal culture, so we fully understanding why our colleagues working in this way or why they requesting, for example, during the sorry business. Right? Previously, we also don't understand why their auntie passed away, that the person have to request 2 months or even 3 months leave. Right? So after we understanding that, we know that it's part of their culture, sorry business, something like this. And also, we the cultural interpreter can also act as mediators. And here is where we can access to how we can identify the client's language needs. For example, you can identify what information and text need to be translated before speaking to the clients, or even though before you're organizing a interpreter, right? So you should know what you're going to translate or what you want the interpreter to translate, and clarify what needs to be discussed and ask for ideas on who can help to interpret. Don't forget Australia. Sometimes when you even though try to book an interpreter to come to your organization to do some translation for our clients, it may take a couple of days, or sometimes if you're living in a countryside or rural area, it may take longer for the interpreters to come. So guess the next available interpreters. So sometimes if it's not really medical or legal or financial problem, we definitely can consider using a family member who can understand their own language to be the interpreter or to translate, or also some of the staff who are speaking the same languages that would help us to translate, right? And definitely you do need to consider not to using any jargons, right? Yes, you have already mentioned, and list down some issues you may have identified and also experienced in the previous interaction. So you do need to prepare, trying to using some languages that the clients will understand, that would help them to easier to meeting their language needs, right? I'm sure I do see so many clients who would prefer some particular staff who can speak their language to come and support them. I think that is one of the really common requests from the clients. I think that is also easier for the staff as well. If the particular staff who can understanding that particular language, that will definitely help the job for the clients and yourself, right? And here it's showing you in different states and tertiary what would be the multicultural support agency that we can use, right? So in different states, they do have their particular agency. So like I think we do have students coming from Victoria. So in Victoria, it is called Victoria Multicultural Commissions. In New South Wales, we do have Multicultural New South Wales, etc., etc. So it depends on which state and territory you're working with or you are going to work with. Then you can look for those particular agency that would help to access some other information about particular cultural background, or looking for services for translation or interpretations. Okay. As we say, we would finish these units a bit earlier today, as there are not many. You to identify first which interpreter is required in Therese' case. That would help Therese. So Therese, it is an elderly lady whose family has decided to put her into care with some reluctance. Okay, she is generally cared for by the family, but unfortunately, Therese's sons and the daughters cannot manage with the high level of care she now requires. Therese speaks only a limited amount of English, but can mostly understand what is being said to her. Her family has always communicated to others for her and have previously taken her to all doctor's appointments, specialist appointments, and even banking and other daily needs. In this case, about Therese's case, if you are the care support worker, which interpreter is required for Therese? I'll give you guys probably 5 minutes. I would like you guys to write down in Therese's case, firstly identify which interpreters you're going to offer to Therese, and tell me why. Why do you think in Therese's case they require which type of interpreters. Okay, so this is just part one. We will have part two to do. So I'll give you guys 5 minutes. You can do it from your end, and then we will call out the students to share your ideas. Okay, so you can read through this scenario, and I would like you to write down, firstly, tell me which type of interpreter you think Therese required, and tell me why. So now it's 11:35. I'll give you guys 5 minutes. I think it is not hard for you guys to identify which type of interpreter Therese requires, but you do need to also consider why you think she requires this interpreter. Two more minutes. Anyone finish? Yeah?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay, great. I'll just probably randomly calling someone to share with us. Christian? Hello, Christian.
Christian?
Hi, yep. Would you like to share with us
Oh, okay.
which type of interpreter you think Therese may require?
I think the most appropriate interpreter would be the professional language interpreter who speaks as first language only.
Okay, so you think she requires the language interpreter?
Yeah.
Alright, why do you think she requires the language interpreter?
Because they speak Therese primary language only, and yeah, and they should be like understand healthcare and social service terminology. So yeah, using a professional interpreter will ensure clear and accurate communication.
Mm-hmm. So
And,
yeah, keep going.
And yeah, make sure it's not from our family, so it could maintain confidentiality. So like sensitive remains private instead of being shared through relatives.
Okay. Alright. Cool. Thank you, Christians. Anyone have different idea that Therese may require other interpreter? Zaki, what do you think? Zaki? Who's everybody? Steve, Andy, Zaki, any of you here? Okay, so I'll mark you absent then. Eileen?
Yeah.
Yeah, would you like to share with us what do you think in this scenario Therese may require which type of interpreter?
I think the same like Christian before, like professional interpreter for that speak her first language would be appropriate, because so she doesn't have to rely on her family all the time.
Yes, good.
And the staff can make sure that they are giving her the right support she needs.
So don't forget at the bottom of the scenario. So Therese do need to having different doctor's appointments, specialist appointments, and also even banking and other daily needs. So how does the language interpreter that would help Therese to meeting all of those her appointments and needs, you think? Charlie? How does the language interpreter would be able to help Therese to taking her doctor's appointments and specialist appointments?
I think it will give her like the right information regarding her medical and banking information, and also maybe financial professional would help.
Sorry, would help her.
Financial professional for her banking.
Yeah, correct. So actually, anyone would believe that Therese required a cultural interpreter?
I do.
Okay, which one? Sorry, I can't.
It's Darwin.
Sorry, Darwin?
That's-
Okay.
yeah.
Darwin, would you like to share with us?
Yeah, sure. So I believe she acquired the culture because on this case it doesn't say anything about her cultural background, and it already said she already taken to doctor, specialist, and even financial advice, I think. So we don't have any problem with medical, anything specialist or financial. So I assume she only have problem with the cultural.
So in this scenario, what actually tells you that Therese may need a cultural interpreter, you think?
So to me, it said she understand most of English. So the input
No,
of
it says
English.
she only understands limited amount of English.
That's it.
Limited, so not most. So she
Give me a
actually
second.
she does have some problem of understanding English because she only is limited of English.
Oh, I thought it was the same. Like this is different. Sorry. So the speaking is limited, but the listening is good. I think so. No, it's okay. I think I get it wrong.
That's okay. That's a good guess. Anyway.
Yep.
Yeah. So next time, just paying attention onto that little part. So it actually saying yes, she probably only speak limited English, but she may also have difficulty of understanding or understanding English. So we definitely, in her case, we still require a language interpreter more than a cultural interpreter, right? We do have a second activities regarding this, but we will start the second activities after the break. Now it's 11:50. We can have probably 10 to 15 minutes breaks. So allowing, as we say, we would definitely can finish today's class a bit earlier. So let's we have 15 minutes break, then we come back to do activity 2, right? Also related to it, all right? So we'll be back in 15 minutes. Yeah?
Yep. Yeah.
Thank
Right.
you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.